Welcome back to Most Amazing. Today we're counting down the top 10 prison guards who took it too far with inmates. Let me know which guard shocked you the most in the comments below. At number 10, 4 pregnant guards. In 2013, 4 different female prison guards in Baltimore, Jennifer Owens, Kateria Stevenson, Shania Brooks, and Tiffany Linder became pregnant, all to the same inmate, Tavon White, according to authorities who busted a major smuggling gang within the jail system. These women weren't just pregnant either. The inmate made a serious impact on them as 2 of the 4 women tattooed his name on their bodies, and he showered 3 of them with expensive gifts, including cars and jewelry. These 4 were among 25 people facing federal charges, including 13 prison guards. The scheme involved smuggling illegal substances and cell phones into Baltimore City Detention Center. U.S. Attorney Rod Rosenstein said that the 25 defendants participated in running the activities of the Black Guerrilla Family, a prison and street gang from behind bars. 13 female corrections officers, 7 inmates, and 5 alleged co-conspirators are charged with racketeering, money laundering, and possession with the intent to distribute. The affidavit says that the corrections officers helped members of the notorious gang smuggle cell phones, substances, and cigarettes into the jail to sell to other inmates and make thousands of dollars. Corrections officers hid the contraband in their shoes, as Baltimore does not require employees to remove footwear when going through screening. At number 9, Allison Sharples. Now, this guard never ended up being intimate with a prisoner like a lot of other guards, but that didn't stop her from trying to become pregnant with one of her inmates. Sharples worked at HM prison Garth, Lancashire up until 2014, when she was arrested while attempting to leave the prison yard with a syringe filled with sperm. Apparently, Sharples had planned to take said syringe home and impregnate herself, which could have easily happened had she not been caught right away. A DNA test of the sperm revealed that it belongs to one of the twin brothers, Marvin and Michael Berkeley. Both brothers had been sent to prison in 2007 for several crimes, including hijacking and taking someone against their will. Marvin ended up being the primary suspect, as his brother was being held in a different facility. Authorities then searched Sharples' home. There they found a letter written by Marvin. In the end, Sharples confessed that she had wanted to become pregnant by Marvin because she, quote, wanted a chocolate baby. Luckily, she never ended up pregnant, and instead she was slammed with a 9-month sentence in jail. At number 8, Nancy Gonzalez. In 2014, then 30-year-old prison guard received a 366-day sentence for being intimate with an inmate at the Lower Manhattan prison. As a result of this, Gonzalez became pregnant. The prisoner was Ronell Wilson, who was on death row for taking the lives of 2 police detectives. Along with being intimate with Wilson, Gonzalez was also found guilty of leaving the other prisoners unguarded during their meetups and allowing Wilson to physically harm another inmate. The intercourse also put Gonzalez in a position in which Wilson could have stolen her cell keys. Following being caught, Gonzalez admitted to agreeing to have Wilson's baby, thinking it would make the jury reconsider giving him the death sentence during his retrial. Of course, this did not help Wilson, and he again received the death penalty 10 years after his initial sentencing. Gonzalez ended up giving birth in 2013, and another prisoner, Robert Capofari, that she was involved with, offered to take care of the child. He was moved to another facility after the relationship was suspected, but they were able to remain in contact through cell phones which had been tapped, allowing federal agents to confirm their relationship. At number 7, Sheontae Harris. She was a corrections officer at Leavenworth Federal Detention Center in Kansas, which is a maximum security prison run by private prison company CoreCivic. In 2021, Harris was charged with selling packs of cigarettes to an inmate for $100 a pack, who then turned around and charged other inmates $350 per pack. The prices inmates are willing to pay for contraband has skyrocketed, so the temptation for employees to smuggle things has also risen. When the FBI was tipped that contraband was moving into the prison, they confronted Harris about whether or not she was receiving money through Cash App. Harris denied having Cash App, even though it was her primary means of getting money for the contraband. You would think that a visit from the FBI would have been enough to get Harris to stop moving goods, but apparently Harris approached 2 more inmates after the FBI encounter, trying to bring even more cigarettes into the institution. Harris was eventually arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit bribery and provide contraband and making false statements to federal agents. She pleaded guilty and faced a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison. At number 6, Collins Bay Institution. On May 2, 2023, CTV News reported that police discovered that a second unnamed employee at an Ontario federal prison and an inmate were charged as a part of an alleged scheme to smuggle substances to inmates. The authorities said that it was part of the same investigation that led to the first employee, Darren Blanchard, being arrested in February at the Collins Bay Institution in Kingston, Ontario. Police said that they seized over 1,220 grams of suspected substances. They also revealed that they arrested the second Collins Bay Institution employee on 2 counts of conspiracy to commit an offense and breach of trust by a peace officer. Police say that the 40-year-old is also being charged under federal corrections law with bringing contraband into the the prison and delivering it to inmates. Authorities also said that a man who was incarcerated at Collins Bay Institution has been charged with 2 counts of conspiracy to commit an indictable offense and has since been transferred to a Quebec federal prison. At number 5, Alexis Tucker and Jorge Romero. The 2 South Carolina prison guards are facing substance and misconduct charges after being caught trying to sneak several packages of contraband into a Columbia prison. Tucker and Romero were arrested after an incident on July 1st at Broad River Correctional Institution, and both have been terminated. Tucker, a 27-year-old Colombian resident, allegedly brought a clear plastic work bag containing multiple wrapped packages of substances, cell phones, and electronics into the prison. Romero, 46, also of Colombia, allegedly helped Tucker by allowing her to enter the facility without searching her and overlooked the obvious and copious amounts of contraband in her bag, according to an arrest warrant. The contraband was discovered after members of the prison's correctional emergency response team stopped Tucker after noticing several black packages in her work bag. A search of the bag revealed 3,249 grams of a certain green substance, 1,485 grams of tobacco, 982 cigar wraps, 605 grams of another popular street substance, 217 grams of a certain white powder, 27 cell phones, chargers, game controllers, AirPods, and other legal items. Tucker is charged with trafficking and possession of substances with the intent to distribute, providing contraband to prisoners, misconduct in office, and substance conspiracy, according to the SCDC. Romero is charged with misconduct in office and substance conspiracy. At number 4, Vicky White. She was a former Alabama corrections officer who was accused of helping a man suspected of taking a life escape from jail. In 2022, White took her own life hours after she and escaped inmate Casey White were captured in Indiana following a car crash that ended a manhunt spanning more than a week. Casey and Vicky shared no relation aside from the last name. The pair had a collection of weapons on hand, including 4 handguns and several automatic weapons. Following his arrest, Casey said that he was probably going to have a shootout at the stake of both of them losing their lives. The pair had been on the run for just over a week after Vicky helped Casey flee the Lauderdale County Detention Center. The morning they left, the day Vicky had also been set to retire, it was thought that they were leaving for a mental health evaluation in court for Casey. Later, investigators learned that no such investigation had even been scheduled. As Vicky was leaving the jail, she told a booking officer that she was going to a medical appointment after she dropped Casey White off because she wasn't feeling very well, but it turns out Vicky didn't have an appointment scheduled for that day either. During the investigation, officials learned that Vicky White and Casey White had a special relationship and had communicated over the phone for the past 2 years before they disappeared. At number 3, Edwin Tickney. Omid Tavali is a Canadian kingpin in charge of various illicit organizations focusing on substance running and telemarketing fraud. In 2005, after one of his guys made off with $300,000, Omid capped the man's brother-in-law and aggressively interrogated him. After several hours, the man was set free and ran straight to the police. Omid was soon captured and arrested on charges of kidnapping and SA in Canada and was to be extradited for conviction to the United States in relation to his wire and telemarketing fraud. Tavali appealed his extradition, and while being held in the maximum security North Fraser pretrial center, he escaped. Tavali did this by simply bribing a corrections officer named Edwin Tickney, who dressed him as a janitor and walked him right out the front door. Tickney pled guilty to obstruction of justice and accepting a bribe in connection with Omid Tavali's escape. He ended up being sentenced to 3 years in prison and apologizing for helping Tavali escape. Omid has never been found and is still free. Most likely he's being protected by his criminal connections and is hiding somewhere in Western Canada, though by now he could be anywhere. At number 2, multiple New York guards. Earlier this year, the New York Times published an article talking about the amount of mistreatment from prison guards that goes unpunished. New York State officials have documented the results of attacks by hundreds of guards on people in their custody. However, when the state corrections department has tried to use this evidence to get them terminated, it fails 90% of the time. A review of prison disciplinary records dating back to 2010 found more than 290 cases in which the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision tried to fire officers or supervisors it said physically abused prisoners or covered up treatment that ranged from group beatings to withholding food. All that being said, officers were ousted in just 28 cases. The state tried to fire one guard for using excessive force in 3 separate incidents over 3 years, but failed each time, and he remains on the state prison's payroll. One officer broke his baton, hitting a prisoner 35 times even after he was handcuffed. Another beat a prisoner so badly that he needed 13 staples in his head. Neither were fired, nor were the officers who battered a mentally ill man, injuring him from face to groin. State records show in dozens of documented cases involving severe injuries of prisoners, including 3 deaths, the agency did not even try to discipline the officers. In Number 1. Gregory Rodriguez. He is a former correctional officer at Central California Women's Facility, which is California's largest women's prison. Earlier this year in May, Rodriguez was arrested on suspicion of taking advantage of at least 13 incarcerated people over almost a decade. Last year, before he retired, Rodriguez was under investigation and was charged with 95 counts of SA as well as one substance-related charge. The misconduct dated back to 2014, but prosecutors said it mostly occurred in the last 2 years. Advocates say that these charges scratch the surface of systemic misconduct and inappropriate treatment in the women's prison. Correctional authorities said in 2022, investigators identified more than 22 victims of Rodriguez. Rodriguez was being held on $7.8 million bail, and it was not clear if he had a lawyer. If convicted on all charges, Rodriguez would be sentenced to more than 300 years in prison. The DA's office said that the 95 charges include 39 individual SAs. A 48-page complaint alleges that Rodriguez would harm people throughout the facility, including in a substance abuse building, in a clinic, before and after court appearances, and in the parole hearing area, where incarcerated people appear before commissioners who decide whether to grant them their freedom. He's also accused of bringing hard substances into the prison. Advocates working with survivors said there was a culture of abuse, fear, and retaliation in the facility that allowed him to continue his behavior for years. That was the top 10 prison guards who took it too far with inmates. Did I miss any guards? Let me know which ones in the comments below. I've been your host, Maddie. Make sure you like, share, and follow for more.